There are over 60,000 objects in the collection of the Amelia. We've got lots of fascinating things. Do you reckon that you could correctly identify a selection of weird and wonderful objects? In this explainer video, we will reveal the mysteries of the selection of weird and wonderful objects that you saw in the Guess the Object video. If you haven't watched that yet, go and watch it first before you hear what the answers are. So, are you ready then? Let's begin. Moustache Protector Cup. A well-groomed Victorian gentleman was not complete without a moustache. A moustache needed to be firm and properly groomed. To achieve this, wax was applied. In some cases, gentlemen even dyed their moustache to appear younger. Drinking tea was a popular pastime of the Victorian era. However, the heat of a hot cup of tea was not good news for a well-groomed moustache, the wax and dye often melting into the cup. As a result, British potter Harvey Adams invented the moustache cup. A moustache cup was like a regular teacup, except that its top was covered with a semicircular guard that stopped the hot drink from touching the moustache. Sugar nippers. Today, we are used to seeing sugar in cubes or granulated. However, during the Victorian era, sugar was sold in a solid cone known as a sugarloaf. The sugar would be cut from the loaf using sugar nippers, such as these from the Amelia collection. Sugar nippers acted like scissors, cutting off chunks of sugar from the cone. Once the sugar was cut, pieces were placed in bowls to add to tea or ground down using a pestle and mortar. Skirt lifter. Large voluminous skirts that reached the floor defined ladies' fashion during the Victorian era. These long skirts would drag along the floor, picking up dirt and making it difficult to move. This became more problematic as the popularity for ladies playing sports, such as croquet, increased. However, this did not deter the Victorian lady, who instead adopted the skirt lifter as an answer to the problem. A skirt lifter was attached from the waist with a cord or chain. At the end of the cord sat a clamp. The clamp would scoop up sections of the skirt so that they would not drag along the floor. As these clamps were visible, they were often decorative. However, as skirts became shorter in the 20th century, the skirt lifter became obsolete. Boot warmer. Without the invention of central heating, Victorian winters were much colder than they are now. To fight the chill, Victorians invented shoe boot warmers. These ceramic warmers would be filled with boiling water and placed inside your shoes before you went out, leaving your toes feeling toasty and warm as you headed out into the cold. Fire bellows. These bellows are from a blacksmith forge in Penshurst. Blacksmiths were a vital part of Victorian society, making everything from horseshoes to nails. Bellows were used to supply the blacksmith's fire with air to make sure it was hot enough to melt metal. What makes these bellows special is that they're an example of double-acting piston bellows. They allowed air to be blown out on both strokes of the handle, rather than blowing air and then refilling like normal bellows. This allowed a more constant air supply, ensuring the fire kept its high temperature. Bottle of Nux vomica. There was a high rate of disease and illness in the Victorian era. Doctors were too expensive for most of the population, so instead, they purchased drugs over the counter from chemists. These drugs frequently claimed to cure a large variety of illnesses, and back then there was no consumer protection to check the quality of these products. Nux vomica was believed to cure a variety of illnesses, from indigestion to constipation and headaches. Nux vomica contained high levels of strychnine, a strong poison. Diluted, it would cause the patient to vomit or to have diarrhea, which was believed to show that the drug was working. However, in large doses, it could cause convulsions and ultimately lead to the patient's death. glove stretcher. Another Victorian invention that did not stand the test of time, the glove stretcher. Any self-respecting Victorian lady would not be seen without a pair of gloves. To allow a certain amount of dexterity, the gloves needed to fit like a second skin, so were worn tight to the skin. Kidskin leather gloves were popular because they were soft, but when they got wet, they tended to shrink. This is where the glove stretcher stepped in. The ends were placed into each finger, and then the handles were squeezed together, stretching out the gloves. Face screen. With no central heating, fires were very important features in Victorian homes. However, when sitting by the fire, the heat could become too intense. As a result, women used face screens to shield their face from the heat. This also prevented their faces getting too red, an unbecoming look for a Victorian lady. Brass globe. The Victorians were fascinated by science, exploration, and mapping the world. We think this object would originally have had its own stand, maybe on an angle, to allow the globe to be turned around. We think the chain is not original, and it does not match. What do you think? Do you have something similar to this? Or have you ever seen something similar like it? Somewhere else, perhaps? Let us know. For now, the story of this object remains a bit of a mystery, but we do know it is a brass globe with countries engraved on the surface. Sometimes, even we don't know all of the answers. Vasculum. This is a vasculum, a container used to collect plants and flowers so that they could be taken home safely and then studied or replanted. An interest in botany, the study of plants, became very popular during the Victorian period. Vasculums were made first for adults, but ones such as this soon became popular and were used frequently by children. So, how did you get on? Who triumphed in the end? Who didn't know their vasculum from their nux vomica? We hope you enjoyed the quiz, and remember, stay curious.